With Sage Advice Unfurled this week, we'll keep it nice, short, and sweet for you. We're continuing with Bard from last week, and the question is: can magical secrets be replaced as other spells when leveling? Magical secrets, I believe, is College of Lore bards. It's all bards, but College of Lore gets it earlier, where bards can select a spell from any school. They're not limited by their class. So the question is, when bards level like most spellcasters do, they have the opportunity to switch out what spells they know. How does that apply to magical secrets? Simply stated, the spellcasting rules for bards state that any bard spell can be replaced when you level with another bard spell. So there are two checks here. First of all, magical spells, the spell that you choose through magical secrets count as a bard spell towards you. So yes, they can be changed. However, you then have to replace it with another bard spell. So you'd be trading out that magical secret spell, and at that point, you'd only be able to select a new spell from the bard list, which kind of negates the purpose of magical secrets. So my recommendation is just to be very critical of what you're choosing when you're selecting that magical secret spell, because while you can change it out for another bard spell, you will have to change it out for a bard spell specifically. Next up in Sage Advice Unfurled this week, we're continuing with bard mechanics. Specifically, what types of spell scrolls can a bard use, particularly bards with magical secrets? This is a great question. Magical secrets doesn't really apply to the type of spells that a bard can read on a scroll in a general sense. But as we mentioned, a bard can use any spell scroll that contains a bard spell. The caveat is if the scroll is a spell that you already know as a result of magical secrets, then you can use that scroll. So for example, if a bard picks up a scroll and it's Chain Lightning, but the bard has Chain Lightning as a magical secrets spell, then it can use it. If a bard does not have the Fireball spell and a scroll contains Fireball, then they can't use that scroll simply because it's any other school and magical secrets, yada, yada, yada. So yes, they can use a scroll with any bard spell on it, naturally. And they can use any scroll that has a spell that they already know through magical secrets, to put it simply. Moving into specifics for clerics on Sage Advice Unfurled. Next up, question: does Destructive Wrath apply max results to all damage rolls for clerics as long as there's some thunder and lightning damage done? Destructive Wrath is a channel divinity feature of Clerics of the Tempest specifically. So this is a little bit niche. But the rule is that it allows you to one time maximize the damage on thunder and lightning damage only. So it only applies to die that deal thunder and lightning damage, not any other effects die, unless those are also thunder and lightning effects. So for example, it's a bad example, but let's say like if you crit, then you double all the damage dice. But in this case, like if you use Destructive Wrath, it only applies to the thunder and lightning damage dice. Every other tertiary dice or any dice that are added, you roll as normal. Continuing on with Sage Advice Unfurled, we're talking a little bit about Druids, which are a little bit more nuanced in 5e. So there's a lot of question answer and a little bit more obscurity around some of the rules as they apply to Druids. First of all, the concept of metal armor. Historically, Druids were unable to wear metal armor, and this is really a lore item that's tied into editions of Dungeons & Dragons way back before a second, third edition even. So the idea that Druids can't wear metal armor is a bit of a misnomer. They actually can. It's more of a cultural choice that's rooted in the lore back to the beginning of Druids. But there's no actual restriction on that in the rules. So the only real restriction around whether Druids can or cannot wear metal armor is based on whether or not they have the proficiency to do so without affecting their spell casting. So as far as rules are consideration, there's nothing stopping a druid from using metal armor, but it is something that narratively I would talk to your GM about just to make sure that there aren't any other storied implications for a druid who decides to go against culture in that respect, or however you want to play it out as a player and GM. Beyond that, there is no hard rule that says that druids can't use steely metal armor. Finally, a good question about Druids. Again, can a bound and gagged Druid still use Wild Shape to escape? Invariably and simply, the answer is yes. It really just depends on what those binds are. There's no somatic or verbal component to Wild Shape. Druids can do it at will as long as they have the activations available. It's based on their wisdom. So there's nothing stopping a druid from wild shaping out of their binds or bounds or captivity, as long as the shape they choose is capable of doing that. Like if you were to shapeshift into something silly like a goldfish, it wouldn't help you get out of a tank of water. It won't help you survive a great fall at distance either.